Interior design is a probably leading institution that is focused on the application of design as a strategic advantage of corporations, that is looking at the intersection between design and business, and also focused highly on the value of user-centered design, particularly bringing some of the advanced methodologies for understanding users in a deep way. And thirdly, by focusing on a structured approach to problem solving, a methodological approach. Sometimes people refer to the Institute of Design as the school of design for methods, right? So that's one of our heavy emphasis. And finally, we also sort of recognized for bringing design thinking at a very systemic level. In terms of what it means is that the kind of design approach that we teach is not about designing a single product or a particular small level offering, but rather taking a step back and looking at that product in relation to the entire system and trying to solve problems at that level. Especially important because the world is much more complex than simple redesign of products that can become successful. Look at all the ways in which companies are innovating at the network level, at the platform level. So those are some of the emphasis that we bring to the table as an institution. But at the same time, we have a really long history. It came out of the Bauhaus movement. The school is called a new Bauhaus in a sense, because some of the key people who left Bauhaus during those early times sort of arrived in Chicago and started the school. So it's got a solid history behind it as well. So that's where we are now, and particularly, my interest kind of matches with where the school is going, because my interest, my old career has been understanding the process of innovation better, understanding the design process better, and trying to come out with methods and tools that will support that process. And it was a perfect match for me because the school is also doing the same thing. And then I have been delighted that I was able to contribute my strengths to the overall development of the school. We believe that any innovation has the best chance of success if it is grounded on people's needs. Right? That's the premise that we come from. That's the premise that sort of justifies the value of user-centered design. There's so many examples of technology-driven innovation that has not paid attention to human behaviors or how people will use it in an easy way. Has not succeeded. Whereas innovation that start with a fundamental understanding of human behavior and their needs have a better chance of success. So that's one premise. But at the same time, user-centered design does not mean that you don't have to focus on other aspects of design. You don't have to focus on technology or business. They are equally important. But user-centered design to us is more of a focus on understanding user behaviors and needs without forgetting or without paying attention to the other factors that contribute to innovation, like technology factors or business factors. Right? So they're all equally important, but our emphasis is more on understanding users and driving the entire innovation based on that basis, that solid basis, which I think in an intuitive sense is probably a good approach, because an innovation that is ultimately is to be used by people, and if the people's needs are not taken into consideration, it won't be leveraged, it won't be successful. So it's not as new belief or a new thing that has evolved. This has always been there for innovations, but user-centered innovation is recognized more and more as a science or a practice, as a formalized way of doing things. It is more common practice now. Design in the traditional sense never used to use formalized processes for understanding users in essence, but most of the designs were intuitively done to support human behaviors. But more recently, there is a formalization of the techniques and the method that we can use to understand human behavior that has come to the forefront. But the idea has always been there. Very general structured process, to me, will have very distinct phases. Right? So if you can understand that process in terms of distinct phases, or rather I would use another term, modes. Modes in the process. Phases would mean some kind of linearity, but the process need not be linear all the time. It could be a process that goes up and down in a sort of a more non-linear fashion. So the modes fits in very well there. You can be in different modes during that process, but the trick is to identify those modes and be aware at any point of time, the team working on innovations in organizations, being aware of that mode or the transition between modes will be a good thing. That's one of the ways in which we can define the process and have a common understanding. But just to give you a better sense of what these modes mean, in my view, in my model, there are 7 modes that really makes an innovation process a very generic process that everyone in the company can have a good understanding about, a shared understanding about. One mode is about the early phase of the innovation. You're sensing your intent, your goal for innovation. The first question of what do I innovate? Where should I look at? Where are the opportunities? What are the trends that are going on in the world? Where is the world generally moving so that I can move in that direction? What are the new developments? What are the cutting edge things happening in the world? All those will have to be understood in that mode of sensing and intent. Right? That'll give you a good starting point. It's only a starting point for directing your innovation efforts. Then once you have a good sense of where you want to move, you can get into the mode of knowing people. Remember, people as at the core of anything that you start with. How do you really understand people? You have to be in that mode. That's where empathy and observations, listening, all those kinds of skills come into being. In that mode, you are really trying to understand people's behaviors and needs. I have a kind of an obsession to be people, to be in their shoes and understand what their problems are, how can you solve problems. Right? That's the second mode. The third mode is that alone is not enough. You have to be in the mode of understanding everything else around people. I call it the mode of knowing the context. The context might involve your products, your offerings, your competitive offerings, the companies, the regulations, the environment, all kinds of factors that define the context within which I'm trying to innovate a system or a product. Knowing the context. The moment you have a good understanding of the people and the context, you have to shift modes and you have to get into an abstract mode. That abstract mode is not about really observing the real thing that people are doing and real thing happening in the context, but really looking at all those things that have learned from the reality and working on an abstract world in which you are trying to gain insights, trying to find patterns in what you have observed, trying to find answers to a lot of questions that you might have when you are doing research. Those are all done in the abstract mode of framing insights. That's what I call that the fourth mode is all about. The fifth mode is once you have